So this is continuing kind of a series I've been talking about. It's probably going to be the final part about living from rest. And the first aspect was about understanding that our identity, who we really are and where we reside, that's where the rest comes from. It's not something that we have to manufacture. It naturally comes from really knowing our identity. And in that place, then then in the second part, it kind of talked about some different aspects as to why we can struggle with that identity. What will pull us into living in this reality, and some different techniques that the Lord has put within our bodies, and just an awareness that we're able to use to pull us back into that place. Because rest is really important to Him. That's where we get everything done from. And yet it's so counterintuitive when we reside in a physical realm. We keep fighting with, identifying with this physical realm. That's a hard concept for us to get. So today I wanted to talk about, how does this affect creation? Because I think everything comes from, first it's how we deal with the kingdom within, with ourselves, with our own relationship with the Lord. And then from there, it goes outward. So he mentions already that we are stewards of this creation. But the key is it comes from us actually knowing our identity in that place of rest. So rest comes from knowing who we are, where we are, and whose we are. It's not manufactured from our own strength. So the moment that we remember who we really are as spirit beings, something shifts, and the world itself begins to look different. Rest is knowing love and becoming love. And I get a lot more into these different aspects in the other teaching. This is kind of just a little bit of a recap. 2 Corinthians 3:18. And we all with unveiled face behold as in a mirror the glory of the Lord, are being transformed into the same image from glory to glory, even as by the Spirit of the Lord. So this verse really just expresses that aspect of that is where we are. We are face to face. Our true identity is face to face with Him. And in being in that place and remembering that, there's this transformation that is happening because we're looking into His glory. And we're becoming as He is. You can't help but start to mirror that. And because it's not even, it's what you already are. But there's a part of you that has to come back into the remembering of that. But as we behold Him, and as we reside in Him and grasp that that is our identity, we will automatically become more like Him. That's the amazing aspect of the fact that the work is already done. So much of it is about the awareness and being at peace with that, and the trust that we've been talking about. Just that trust. He's already has it all. It is all done. It is complete. And we get to just breathe, just be in Him, and become like Him through that process. He is taking care of everything, bit by bit, and just that peace and that rest. So once you remember that you are a spirit being in union with the Father, transformation is automatically going to happen. And we get caught up in a timeline. Well, it needs to happen at this pace, or it's automatically going to happen. And it is happening. The next revelation that typically comes from that, though, is that you're not alone in this union. That all of creation is held in it with you. So Colossians 1:16 through 17, for in Him, and I don't have the whole thing up there, but for in Him all things were created. All things were created by Him and for Him, and in Him all things are held together. There's something so powerful in that verse where it's like, just pause and grasp that. All things were created by Him, and all things for Him. And in Him, everything is held together. Now, we can all picture different things in creation that feel twisted, wrong. It's a challenge to think of that is all being held together by him and is all for him. But that's because these things have been twisted. The challenge is not to deny, but to try to see creation in its untwisted original form as it was meant to be and as it really truly is in its true identity now. Yeah, it's easier if you do it on the microphone because Zoomers won't be able to hear you. Yeah, absolutely.
With just some beautiful insight here. Sister here started with saying identity and remembering who we are. The way that the Creator, our Heavenly Father, has identified himself as the Creator is by his seal, which is the Sabbath. Again, last week, I believe, I think I touched on, every sound in Hebrew has a meaning. Shah, Abba, Bat, Shabbat. The Shah, the H, is the spiritual, heavenly, eternal life. The Abba, obviously, is Father, and then Bat, or Bath, is sign of or house of. So his identity is seen in as he had proclaimed upon creation. We were talking about creation, and remember, you had said, the sister here said, remember who we are, remember the Sabbath day, keep it holy. Again, the only commandment is that we don't work. All the Pharisaical additions were all man-made laws, which, again, the Ten Commandments is not law. The Ten Commandments is actually the will of God, and I can quickly prove that. The original text in Genesis is the Ark of the Testimony, or even rendered as Ark of the Testament, which was, we all remember what was placed in the Ark of the Testimony, the Ten Commandments, some manna and Aaron's budding rod, but the word testimony means a living will. The word testament means the will. So when the Lord said, build me a throne that I may dwell with my people, the very next verse in Genesis, he's giving instructions to the people to create the Ark of the Testimony. Again, the pagans changed it to the Ark of the Covenant because the covenant came within the book of the law that Moses wrote. That was after the giving of the Ten Commandments. The book of the law that Moses wrote was crucified with Christ. We're no longer under the law. And it was, again, and I'll wrap it up, but it was placed on the side of the Ark of the Testimony as a witness against us. Jesus is now our witness for us. Again, the book that Moses wrote was crucified with Christ, and it was a witness against us. Now, Jesus the Christ, Yahushua Mashiach ben Yahweh, Jesus the Christ, the Son of God, is now our witness for us. So, and again, the last thing that I wrote down that you had just mentioned, the work is already done. The 6 days of creation, the work the Lord in creating the universe is already done, which leads to the holiness of the Sabbath, which again is his seal and how we identify who the Creator is. And that is, as it says in Genesis, the Sabbath is his sign. So thank you. I'll stop because I could go on forever.
Thank you. Yeah, that was wonderful. It's very much a reinforcing some ideas and just the importance of rest. But yes, so going back into the next aspect that I kind of bring is about the fact that all creation is alive. There's a certain life that it carries that we tend to overlook a little bit. The physical world is not background scenery. It is actually alive with God's breath. Just like when he breathed us into existence, there's something special that he put into us. But everything has a spark of his essence in it. Everything that was created, every rock, the air, like it all carries something very special from him. Because he does not create dead things. Everything is alive with his breath. Psalms 19:1 mentions that the heavens declare the glory of God. Romans 8:19 through 22 mentions how creation waits in eager expectation. There are so many scriptures that use living description for creation. When he is life, what he creates carries that same spark and the essence of life. So there's a reason that there's so much living description for the way that creation is responding and moving and glorifying God. So the physical realm is only the shadow of a deeper spiritual reality. But that shadow is alive, and it is vibrating with the breath of God. I like to think that everything has a certain spiritual dimension. We see the physical form, we see the tree, we see the ocean, we see the planet. But who are we to say that what they are who are we to limit what they are in the unseen realm? I think that there's mysteries in each of these things that are beyond the physical surface. I think there's life. I think there's, and this is kind of a personal thing, but I really believe, he talks about, even the song that we sang, he knows every star by name. Well, what if there's a little bit more to that? What if it's that these stars literally are spiritual entities? They have these personalities. They literally have something that they can share with us about who the Lord is, who their creator is. So when you view things in this way, stewardship over creation tends to shift a little bit. All creation isn't waiting to be dominated, used, or controlled like inanimate objects. It's waiting to be awakened to join in the love song it was made to sing. And this all echoes, because it all echoes his words, his frequency. He spoke it all into existence. His words are still, the frequency is still reverberating through every fabric in creation. So Psalms 33:6, by the word of the Lord the heavens were made, and all the hosts of them by the breath of his mouth. It literally says it right there. It is his word, his frequency, his breath is still moving throughout all of it. Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, what you were saying about the stars and how Daddy calls the stars by name and stuff like that. It's interesting when you read in Luke chapter 19, starting with verse 39, it says, and some of the Pharisees called to him in front of the crowd, Teacher, rebuke your disciples. But he answered and said to them, I tell you that if these should keep silent, the stones would immediately cry out. I think that really fortifies what you're saying.
Yeah, thank you. I know, I always liked that verse. As a kid, I would just imagine that, what? Yeah. So as his image bearers, I think he's given us something special too in this bringing life to that's around us or awakening the potential for it. So this kind of goes into the aspect, all creation is literally actually alive and you can interact with it. But what if there's even another part to this? So what about an inanimate object, let's say a teddy bear, for instance? He didn't necessarily speak that into existence, but he did give us the creative power within our minds that is from him. He creates, he gave us the ability to create. And then every substance in this realm that is what we use to create things, he's breathed his life into that. So that kind of challenged me one day in thinking about things like that too. But I heard this beautiful story once from this lady that she was sharing a story about her brother. He's a pastor who goes to prisons. He goes to to death row basically and talks to these prisoners the week before that, they're going to, go to see the Father, essentially. They just may not all know that yet. And so he's talking to them, and he's trying to just speak life over them, bring them into encounter with Jesus. And this one guy was just so adamant, so hateful. He had a really negative view of Christianity, of Jesus, of religion. And he was just speaking through that pain. And so he started yelling at this pastor, like, I want nothing to do with that God. And like, no, he's never cared about me. And so that guy was asking the Lord, what do you want me to say to him? And what Jesus had the pastor tell this guy is, your teddy bear, when you were 3 years old, your teddy bear is here with me. And when you come to see me tomorrow, your teddy bear is alive here with me, and he's going to greet you. And this guy started bawling. I mean, he was this big, so angry inmate who was about to be put to death. And he starts bawling, and he shares with me, goes, when I was 3 years old, that teddy bear was the only thing I loved. And my dad was an alcoholic. And one day in a fit of rage, he ripped up that teddy bear and threw it into the fireplace. And that guy goes, and I swore that day never to love another thing again, or person, anything. And so it just wrecked him, and he gave his life to the Lord that day. He went, the next day to his Creator, knowing he was loved, knowing he was seen. And that story, when I heard that story, it wrecked me too, because I was like, wow, Lord, that is so special. That's so intimate. That's so personal. Like, leave it to you to, just the miraculous. And then I started thinking, how many stuffed animals are there in heaven that are alive? Like Emma, she loves her stuffed animals. They're alive to her. And I started thinking, I had stuffed animals that I loved. And I kind of felt a little guilt, because I'm like, I don't even know where they went at this point. But man, I can remember how much I loved them. They were so worn out. And I thought, at that time, Sterling was really little, and he still, every single one of his stuffed animals, he has them, and he loves them. And so I was asking the Lord about that, and he gave the phrase to me. He says, if you love it, you give it life. So that challenged me. I was like, you mean we have that same power within us? And it's because we're using, he's the fabric of creation that he's already put life into. And we actually have this ability to bring life into these things. And so, go ahead. Yeah.
I just thought about this book, and some of you may know it, but when I was living with my landlords years ago, I had really dear, they kind of adopted me. They were like adopted parents, and the husband, he was very, very fatherly towards me. And one day we found out, we were looking through their old books, their kids' books, and they had a book called The Velveteen Rabbit. And I had never read that book before. And he's like, what? So he sat down with me. I'm in my I'm like 27 or something like, and let me read this story to you. And he read The Velveteen Rabbit to me, and it was always it really impressed upon my heart. And if you haven't read the story, it's basically about a rabbit that starts out as a toy, but the love of this child turns this rabbit into a real rabbit. Like, it becomes real. And
yeah, I know. Isn't that amazing? Like, there's so many things that echo these deeper truths, and I totally believe that. Like, I think there is an aspect that is, we do that with him when we love something. I'll just I won't go more into that tangent, but that's a fun one to take to the Lord and talk to him about. So love awakens creation. Love draws out what Spirit has already breathed into it. And creation responds to being seen. We respond to being seen. We love when we're seen. That guy, he felt seen by the Lord when the Lord spoke to him about his teddy bear. He's like, oh my gosh, I have been seen all along. I've been loved all along. So creation responds in that same way. Romans 8:22. The whole creation has been groaning. Groaning is what something alive does. Creation responds, creation feels, creation listens. Psalms 148, 7 through 10 talks about sea creatures, mountains, fruit trees, wild animals, and how they're all praising the Lord. So this is a lot more than just a metaphor. It's communion, it's shared life, shared presence, shared resonance. We are entangled with all of creation, just as we're entangled in Him. So just as our true identity is fully wrapped up in Him in the spirit realm, so is all of creation in its true form. And because we are all spirit beings, we can actually commune with creation at the level of spirit. So this is where, like, when the rocks, they cry out in glory. So we've all felt it, where you can be out in creation and it calms you, like the forest can calm you. The stars can reveal wonder to you. You can look at an animal and there's communication that you can see in their eyes. They can speak without words to you. We just have a tendency as we get older to explain it away. But I think we know what that feels like. Job 12, 7 through 8 says, ask the birds, and they will tell you. Or let the earth teach you, or the fish of the sea. He's literally encouraging us to communicate with them. They'll show you mysteries. They know things about me that they can help remind you of that, remembering. Just as you are reminding them of who they are doing the same for you. It's this back and forth. So creation speaks in vibration and resonance, the language beneath words. In this natural realm, we use these physical words our voice box can produce, but there is language that goes a lot deeper than that, that's clearer, that these words can be misunderstood. They can have tone, it can be attached to it, triggers, just different things like that can cause a phrase that I might say to be taken in multiple different ways by different people. Because that's just kind of the nature of it. But when it's actually spirit to spirit speaking, it goes beneath the words. And that's what we actually are able to do with the Lord. And that's what children feel very naturally with all of creation. I once had this time with Sterling where, I was going over it, processing this kind of stuff. And the Lord just asked me one day, He goes, when was the last time you ever spoke to a bush? And I thought, it's been a while. Exactly. It was probably when I was a kid, but I've explained it away. But it's been a while. I should do that more often. So I turned to Sterling. He's 3 at the time, and we're coming back home. So we're about to walk into the front doors there, and I just said to him, Sterling, Have you ever talked to a tree or a bush? And he just kind of looks at me and goes, walks over to this bush that's nearby, leans over, and starts listening to it. And then he just laughs and walks right past me and goes in the front door. And I was like, well, wait a second. Like, did it say something? He goes, well, yeah. It's the bushes and the rocks that were by the bush. It says they were all saying, glory, glory, glory. And I just started laughing because I was like, I would have believed him, Lord, if he had said something else random, like, hi, Sterling, this or that. But man, like, you really made that hit home because, well, you say they say that. And he's hearing that, and I don't think I've ever said that verse to him. But it was just really beautiful. And it's such a reminder that children, they know how to do spirit-to-spirit communication. And we can do it too. We've never lost that ability. So going back to kind of the other aspect where love awakens life. So love quickens, it heals, and it restores. It is, yeah, I mean, there's a reason he is love. It is so powerful. So Jesus didn't command, like the storm, when he calmed the storm, he didn't command the storm like a machine, like an inanimate object, something to just be controlled. He spoke to creation, and creation knew his voice. Creation remembered his voice from when it had been created, still resonated within it. And so when that same frequency aligned with the frequency of its creator, it had to respond. And when we, as sons and daughters, walk awake, walk knowing who we are and whose we are, creation will wake with us because we're speaking his voice, so it responds to that. So creation recognizes you when you're aligned with heaven's frequencies, reflecting your Father's image. And this is where the place of rest comes in. Because you govern, just as you govern rest within your body, it's from that place of rest that you communicate and steward with creation. You bring creation into that rest and into its original design. And it's important to remember, it comes from that place of rest. We still have the power to produce things from a place of unrest, but it's not coming from that heart of love, and it's not producing what we want to produce. We can see it like with their children, for instance. We can raise them from a place of control, of, I'm so scared they'll lose their way. And so I'm going to enforce, I'm going to do it from this, or it can be from a place of rest. I know whose you are, and that I can never change. And you're going to have to remember that on your own. I'll do my best to lead you into that. But it's from that place of rest, of just knowing that produces something far better in the long run. So the same as with creation. If we go about trying to control creation, trying to dictate to creation, it's not from that place of rest. It may respond. I mean, there are countless stories I've heard of people doing pretty amazing things with the Lord, but then I hear it in the tone of their voice, and I don't know, it just, and I want to stop myself there because I don't want to judge, but when you feel it for yourself, you can feel it in yourself. I remember one time practicing that aspect with the Lord. There was a snowstorm coming in, and I went out and I started commanding that snowstorm. I thought, okay, you tell us that we have this ability. So I started just saying this stuff, commanding it, but it wasn't actually from a place of rest. It was from a place of me thinking that I actually knew better. I knew that dropping temperatures, I was thinking what it was going to do to the birds, the animals. I was thinking this different aspect. But then the Lord told me, he actually convicted me the next day, and he said, you need to apologize to that storm. That storm is beautiful too. That storm was created from me. That snow, you need to just go into a place of rest and call out what it really is. You don't have the right to dictate it, to control it, not unless you actually know what it really is and you're speaking to its true identity, which will cause you to speak to it from a place of rest. Then you actually have that authority. And so I went out on that patio the next day, and I apologized to it. I was like, gosh, I'm really sorry. Actually, I didn't have the right to speak to you in that way. And thank you. Thank you for helping remind me of this. And remind me I want to know more about the Creator through the things that you know. So we were never meant to dominate creation, but to walk among it as those who remember. It's this give and take relationship. Everything's always about relationship. Genesis 2:15 mentions to tend and to keep. We're to tend and to keep creation. Job 12:7-10 mentions about how the earth is going to teach you. It is this give and this take. It's actually a beautiful relationship. And in doing that, you do become a good steward of it. So there's a phrase that is often used over the whole cosmos, that it's fallen. But I started thinking, well, what if asleep is a better phrase for it? Just like we're kind of asleep to our true identity sometimes, and he has to wake us up into it, remind us. That's probably, I believe, a better aspect to think about it with the cosmos, because at least for me, when we talk about words, triggers, fallen, I associate with like evil, with something that is just not good. Whereas asleep, I'm like, okay, I think that produces something that's a little bit more, it is all created by you, for you, through you, and in you. Colossians 1:20, and through him to reconcile to himself all things, whether things on earth or things in heaven, by making peace through his blood shed on the cross. So I believe that creation is not outside of redemption. I think this is such a beautiful verse to remind us of that. It's just waiting to remember, like we're in the process that we are. So when we remember who we are, we help all creation remember what it is as well. And I love how the word remembering can be broken down as a remembering, bringing the fragmented parts back together. Because it's like kind of the teaching I did the prior week, there was an aspect where it's hard for us to go to a place of rest in him when we ourselves are fragmented, when we separate the body from the spirit, from the mind, and it's all these separate parts we maybe label as one is good, one is bad. And we've shattered ourselves, we've fragmented ourselves. But he actually is always calling us all into one, into that oneness. So just as when we bring when he helps us bring all those parts together, we start to recognize it is all good. It is all created by him for a reason. And it comes together as one. The same happens with all creation. It's been fragmented. It's been separate from us. It's this part, that part, this is good, that. But when you bring it all into one, there's healing. There's an aspect of knowing him at a much deeper level, that every piece brings its part. And presence reconnects what fear fractures. We know that in perfect love casts out fear. Fear is a place of not remembering who you are and where you are. And fear causes fractures. Fear causes, that's bad, this is good. It causes, what's the phrase? I shouldn't have gone there if I don't remember. Where you tend to, dualism, there we go. Fear causes dualism, but presence reconnects. Presence brings everything together. Relationship brings everything together. You transcend the physical world, but you were never meant to escape it, only to reveal heaven within it. Luke 17:21. For indeed, the kingdom of God is within you. And this is where, when we can steward the rest within ourselves, then the kingdom of God, it starts from a place within first, and it expands outward. It's part of what we've been called to do, to partner with him in bringing. When you walk in awareness, blessing, and love, you call creation out of its state of amnesia. You restore original harmony, and you echo the voice of the Creator who made it. Romans 8:21, creation itself also will be delivered from the bondages of corruption into the glorious liberty of the children of God. That's a part that we have to play here, is just by being who we are, we're liberating creation, just being who we are. Our awakening affects more than us. Awareness ripples through the whole fabric of creation. I had a really fun conversation with Mercy and Tommy once. It was after our latest conference here, and Mercy brought up the phrase, the 20th monkey. I was like, what is that? And as she's explaining it, I was just like, oh my, that is amazing. So for you guys that may not have heard that phrase, and I could be the only one that was oblivious to it, the 20th monkey is this concept of, it's quantum entanglement. So it's where you have, they studied it in the Galapagos Islands. And one monkey would learn a new way of using a tool, for instance, to do something. The other monkeys around it had to learn by watching that monkey do it, and they would learn that. But after about 20 monkeys on one of the islands had learned it from watching it be done, another monkey on a whole other island that never saw it happen started doing it. It's that divine download. It's that quantum entanglement. Enough are influenced by in one area, it multiplies, and it just happens in another area. Now, in the other area, those other monkeys had to learn by the example again, but then it would multiply and spread to another area. So the same is true for us with awakening. It's when one heart awakens, the whole universe stirs. So what happens when there are parts of creation that resist remembering? Not every part is as easy to cohabit with or to see it for its original identity. There's definitely parts of creation, individuals, forces that participate in destruction, division, or isolation. Well, there's a couple verses here that I have that just kind of, like John 1:5, the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. And Romans 8:38 through 39 mentions that nothing can separate us from the love of God. Philippians 2:11 talks about how every knee will bow. And 1 Corinthians 15:28 says God will be all in all. So there's the aspect in these is that trust and rest, because God does have this, because love is just that powerful. Darkness cannot compete with it. And darkness is just a place of outside that awareness of him. Well, eventually that love wins. So scripture tells us our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, authorities, and powers of this dark world. Dark world being that asleep. So Ephesians 6:12. These powers are not equal forces opposing God. They're distortions. It's all created by him, so it's just distortions, things that have been twisted. They're fragments of creation that have forgotten their origin. So everything was made in God, through God, and for God, as it mentions in Colossians 1:16. And that means even the parts that act in darkness are not outside of him. They're just simply outside of their awareness of him. So darkness is not a rival kingdom. It's identity amnesia. What looks destructive or divided in creation has only lost sight of love and therefore behaves from fear, fragmentation, and distortion. And it helps when you're able to see it that way, because it doesn't become this villainous, evil thing. It's like, oh, okay, I was once there too. So it doesn't need to be crushed. It needs to be met with love, because only love can restore it to itself. What love reveals, it realigns. What love touches, it remembers. So when we stand as awakened sons and daughters, we don't have to fear the darkness. We call it into alignment with the one who made it. We hold our ground in love. And we do have to have healthy boundaries that we set. And we stay rooted in the truth that nothing in creation is beyond restoration. And as we behold him, we are transformed into his image from glory to glory. 2 Corinthians 3:18. So the same thing is always happening around us. And creation remembers when it encounters those who remember him. So even if you don't see it happening, it is happening. So this whole message has kind of been about seeing the world as it truly is and seeing ourselves as we truly are. We're not dead. We're not separate. We're not random, but alive in God, held in love, and waiting to awaken with us. Creation is not something to manage, escape, or ignore. It's something to remember with. We are spirit beings in union with the Father, walking through a world that is also longing to remember its origin. And when we live awake and rest, we know love and we become love. And that naturally calls everything around us into alignment. It's living from that place of it is all done. Yes, his work is completed. So this is our place in the story. It's not to dominate creation, but to illuminate it. It's not to fear darkness, but to call into alignment. And it's not to force awakening, but to carry it. So as you go from here, walk gently and intentionally. Pay attention to the world around you, the trees, the sky, the animals, the ground under your feet. You're not moving through dead matter. You're moving through God's living communion. And your awareness helps creation remember its song. You carry rest into the places of unrest. You carry remembrance into the places of forgiving. Your rest becomes creation's rest, and your life echoes the truth that all creation is alive, all creation is held in him, and all creation is awakening with you. Thank you, guys. Go ahead.
I love the breaking down of the remembering, like becoming members of this creation, the creators. And again, the fourth commandment is the only one that begins with remember. And it was just awesome. Thank you for that breakdown. It was a lovely message tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the idea of all creation is alive. So I have three little things I want to say. One is I was in a prophetic class, and my friend who was leading it, he said, your assignment this week is to find a rock. And you're going to ask the rock questions. And we all looked at each other and we're like, yeah, right. Okay. He goes, no, if the rocks cry out, find out what they want to say. So we all took the assignment, right? And I found a rock, and I was like, okay, what do you say to a rock, right? And I said, so what's your story? And this rock goes, how far back do you want me to go? And I went, how about, like, how did you get here, meaning Colorado? This rock proceeds to, not like in complicated sentences or anything like that, but like, I don't remember, but I do know I fell off a truck. And I went, what? And he goes, I fell off a truck. Anyway, I have this whole conversation, and we're supposed to write it down, we get back to our prophetic class. Everybody has done this, and there are people that had the most extraordinary conversations with their rocks. And it was amazing because I can't remember who it was. There were a couple of people who their rocks, like, almost had identical stories. And so as as we were going through our prophetic class, we were like, what is going on? That this rock over here had this happen and this rock over, and you know, in the class, and like, oh my gosh, my rock had this same exact thing. And it was just so bizarre. But that was one. So creation is alive. And if you're willing to ask, you never know what's going to happen. Glory, glory, glory in the bush, right? And then the other one is I have a friend who goes up and hugs trees. And she hugs trees and she just tells them that she loves them. And they do something internally to her. Like, I don't know if it's vibration or frequency or, you know, there's the term grounding. But she does that. And these trees, when she hikes, if she forgets to go and hug them, they make it known to her that they want her to come and hug them, which I think is pretty cool. And then the other thing is my little sister who lives in Arizona, she walked her property, and she the one thing she didn't want on her property was rattlesnakes. And so she was very concerned about it because there's just tons out there where she lives. And so the Lord she was taking it to Papa, and Papa said, well, why don't you ask them not to come in? So she walked her property and she asked that these snakes not come in, these rattlesnakes. And so for like, I don't know, 4 years, never a rattlesnake. And then one day there was a rattlesnake, and she was like, oh, no, I don't know what to do. And the Lord just said, tell it to go and reestablish your boundaries. And she has done that, and she has not had any more rattlesnakes. So creation is alive, but creation is alive to us and for us and through us because we are created in the image of God. So it's always interesting to me to see when people actually like look at creation and begin to like we were singing tonight in worship, like we can see this, you know, we can see it. And so I really appreciate what you brought tonight. It was really fun.
Thank you. I love hearing about other people like going up and hugging trees and stuff. Yeah, that's really, really sweet. I think it really appreciates being seen like that and what it can share with us.
Definitely enlightening. You shine a light on all that you bring and just take it to a different level. So that's awesome. I'm wondering about the scripture in Genesis 1:26, and maybe it's what Vicky was alluding to with her sister letting the snake know that it wasn't welcome. But, you know, God says, let us make man in our image, according to our likeness, let them rule. It's a pretty strong word. Rule over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the sky, over the cattle, over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. So I'm curious how you see rule.
That would be a good one to see what the Hebrew word is, because I can't speak into what it originated from. But for me, like I was talking about, like with the English language, rule I could take as, okay, it's like, you know, a monarchy. Well, they don't have a voice. But then I'm like, that doesn't really fit with how he is with us. And he does rule over our hearts, but it's through his essence of love, and we were created in his image. So therefore, I'm like, okay, ruling from a place of love and who I really am means there's actually much more of a relationship in that. And I'm here to steward you into who you really are, your true identity and being, which means I'm here to protect you and guide you into that. And if you choose to not, well, the punishment is going to be yours, because there is torment by just choosing to be separate. But I'm not the one that's going to say, like, I'm going to curse you, and, you know, that's just kind of what comes to my mind right now, is that I feel like rule is from a place of love. And so a relationship and calling things into what they really are.
So if something was destructive like a hurricane, do you feel like we could speak to it and tell it to dissipate?
Yes.
That might be an example to rule.
And I think what I would do first is I'd ask the Lord, okay, I know you created the things that are making this up. Is it that it is operating out of a false identity? Did you create the hurricane? Is the hurricane itself supposed to have an identity that's supposed to be like that? Or is it the wind that's acting out of, and the ocean that's acting? Like, what is it that I need to call back into its proper identity? What do I need to speak over in that? And if it's the actual hurricane itself, they said, no, I created the hurricane. The hurricane's supposed to exist. Well, then I know it's not meant to bring fear, to cause hurt, to cause pain. It's meant to do, like, what was it? So what was it designed to do then, Lord? And so I guess that's where I would come at it from. Like with the snowstorm. Actually, you're right. Like, you did design snow to bring water, to water the plants, to even isolate them, to cover, the snow covers plants and protects them. So what parts of this do I need to speak over that are operating out of a false identity or bringing fear or pain? Rather than just saying it's just all bad. I usually have to ask the Lord, like, yeah, what am I maybe not seeing right? Yeah.
Thanks.
I am so excited about this topic tonight. I love it. I love it. Anyway, I do know people who have stopped destructive tornadoes, and they have the authority. And I've seen miracles like that. But the bottom line is, so I've never ever said anything about this. And I walked outside one day, and all of a sudden I am speaking and talking with a bird, and literally in the spirit. And I never had that experience before, but this bird is asking me about my day, and I'm talking to him about, or her about her day. And I shook my head like I just had a conversation with a bird. And for some reason, the Lord has really used birds in my life. When I lived up in Cripple Creek, there was this one bird that would wake me up every morning singing, just beautiful. And he would peek under in my window on my porch and see, like, where are you? So I would go outside and with my coffee, and I would just start singing, and it would just sit there. This happened morning after morning after morning. And it was just amazing, beautiful. And then hummingbirds, were getting involved, and just amazing things with these birds. And it's true. I didn't know so much about that creation like that until I actually experienced it. And they're alive. I mean, they know you, they hear you, they want to talk to you, and it was just precious. And I just wanted to share that because I never told anybody about this. I just kept it inside, but that was really precious to me that I was able to do that. So thank you for sharing this.
Shelley. Yeah, I'm kind of reminded. Maybe I need to and I'll let you go after this. I feel like I should clarify, because, there are absolutely people that their revelation is to speak to different storms and command them to stop and deter them. And there have been amazing things that have happened in that. So that I don't want to come across that that's wrong. No, not at all. I think what it is when you realize we each carry our own part. And so that's where he stopped me. He goes, no, that's not actually your identity. So when I tried to do that, it didn't work for me. And then that's where I identified I was doing it from a place of trying to control something. And for me, what actually worked better long term, and I think what I'm trying to explain in that is that, no, that there is a place for doing that for sure. But sometimes he might bring us to another revelation that it goes, okay, now I actually want you to go a little further. There are destructive forces. They can be told, go, I don't want you here. But maybe it's for another time that they come back, that you now say, okay, now we're going to actually fix the source of that so that you never go about again doing destruction. Now you know what you really are, and you go about bringing life. So there may be a season where there is that, and then a season where it's calling things actually into what its real place in nature is. And so I think that's what I want to clarify with that, because people that have done that, yeah, especially if the Lord tells you to go command that storm, yeah, you do that. So I hope that brings some clarity to that. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, it's all sounded a little different, but then I remember that the rocks cried out, the lilies of the field clapped their hands, and a donkey talked. So, I mean, it's all possible. And, yeah, the thing that struck me when you were teaching tonight is, there's a part that you focus on, and it was the rest in Him. That's the one thing that the Lord has been speaking to us a lot, is about taking the time to rest in Him. You have your prayer time, but then do you take the time to listen after you've prayed? Do you go out throughout the day and just for a minute, even sit down and just remember who blessed you that day? So I love the rest in Him. And I think there's been a lot of focus on that lately, maybe because people are just drudging through life and not taking the time to do that. So thank you for that. It was great teaching tonight. Thanks.
You're welcome. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, go ahead on Zoom. Adam.
Okay, hey, I think you can hear me. Picking up on what you guys said, what Shelley said and what you said about creation. A couple of years ago, we were in Australia, and I was doing a lot of hiking there. And one morning I was journaling, and I just found it. I wrote this down when I was writing down what I felt Father God saying. And He said, feel the heartbeat of my creation. Creation responds to you if you acknowledge it and respond to it. So later that day, Gina and I went for a ride in the car about 10 miles out of town down a gravel road. And we did some little short hike. And at the end, these parakeets, these wild parakeets, they call them budgies. They were green and yellow, just flew into a tree near us. And I started speaking to them and acknowledging them. And then they all went and landed on our car. And we walked up to our car, and these little green budgies were just sitting there. And I got up close to them and took their pictures and all. And I was like, okay, God, when I got home and looked back in my journal, I was thinking about what He told me. And the last thing I'll share on this is a couple of weeks later, I was hiking, and I'm a big fossil kind of looking person. And I know in this one mountain chain where there's a certain kind of fossil. And I looked up during this hike, and there was a fossil up about 50 foot on the side of a cliff. And it was really too dangerous for me to go up there. But I thought, hey, let me get a little closer. Maybe I could get to that fossil. And right when I took the first step, the only time in my life before or since, a bird flew down, hit me on my hat, and flew off. And I knew right when that happened, that was like God using nature to say, you're about to kill yourself. Don't go up there. And I did not go up there, and life is good. So just wanted to share that.
Behind you.
That was just us in Yosemite Park, and there was this pine tree that we parked next to, and I just felt led to go hug it. And that was a couple of years ago, but I didn't hear it speak to me. But next, I do feel the trees when I'm hiking. I hike a lot around here, but I haven't heard them speak yet. But anyway, I'm right there with y'all. That's all I'll say. more to come.
Go ahead, Mercy.
Hi. First, this was great. Thank you so much. Second, it's the 100th monkey, not the 20th. 100th monkey.
All right. So yes, the 100th.
100th monkey. Need more than 20 of them to figure it out. And then, yeah, I wasn't going to share this, but after what the gentleman just shared, my brother, his life was saved by a bird, in that he was sitting in a park. He was really depressed and getting really suicidal. And he was sitting there really contemplating, like his next move was to get a gun and blow his brains out. And he said he was so focused on blowing his brains out, blowing his brains out, blowing his brains out. And then a bird came and landed on his head and just stayed there. And for him, it was like, okay, that's got to be a sign that I'm not supposed to explode my head. So God's creation is amazing.
It's crazy. Go ahead, Don.
I've been told as a gardener, I mean, I'm just, this is a new hobby for me, gardening, but I've been told that if you sing while you're gardening, you have better produce. And I haven't gotten into the opera yet, but anyway, the other thing is there's beetle that's called ash borer beetle, no, emerald beetle that's going to in the ash trees. And I heard this report that 98% of the ash trees are being cut down or destroyed. So I'm thinking, I've got an ash tree in my backyard. The only deciduous, is it? Tree on my property besides an apple tree. I've been talking to that ash tree, and where the trees have been cut down all around my neighborhood, mine's still standing, and we're talking to it. I haven't hugged it yet, but the person who's doing all the cutting is a friend of mine, and he said, well, we'll just wait till spring to see what. So anyway, and I've had the experience of a rainstorm on a Sunday morning, stomping, and because we're going to have a worship service in the park, and it stopped. That's the only time I've ever had anything like that happen. But thank you for sharing. I mean, I'm becoming more and more aware. Yeah. And we go by a pile of rocks. I mentioned to a friend of mine, oh yeah, that's the choir. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, so when I was little, I just wanted to be Dr. Dolittle. And I did everything I could to mimic animal sounds. I still honestly do. But about the tree thing, so we went to, there's a park that we like to go to, a dog park, Bear Creek, and it's really beautiful. You've got a creek that goes through there, a river, and it's probably the best dog park I have ever been to. But and I love to take that opportunity to sit by the river and just listen to it and lean on a tree. And multiple times we've gone and we'll just go and meditate, let our dogs run around, as much, But this last time we went, I sat down and I really needed to, I knew I needed to touch the earth. I needed to ground. I just needed to, and I ended up coming and finding this one tree that was like a forked tree, and I just leaned into it and held it like that. And I'm holding it and I'm just sitting there for the longest time. And it was so, I could feel it just helping me, and this thing was happening. There was a connection, there was this thing happening. And when I got up from that time sitting there, I don't know, maybe I was sitting 20 minutes or something like that. And when I got up, I was starting to walk, and you're walking through kind of a forest, and I'm walking to try to catch up to my husband because he's way down there. And I'm like trying to catch up. And as I'm walking, there's these trees, and there's trees everywhere. So trees are connected in the roots. Like, I mean, they have an underground communication system that is very scientifically proven, that they help each other. It's fascinating. So they're all like, I'm with this one, and they're all like talking, you know. I don't know, but what happened is, and I was like just focusing on getting to my husband. I'm like going down, and all of a sudden I feel this tree that's like pulling on me. Like, I mean, as I walked by, I could feel the attention, like it was like pulling me. Like I felt hey, look at me. Like it was like the tree was it was quite a character. I mean, it looked like it had a big bulbous nose, and like, you know, and I was just, and I didn't return. I was just so focused on trying to get to my husband and catch up to him because he was way ahead of me. So, and I realized hindsight, like I'm like, and I told my husband, I was like, I felt that tree back there. Like, I don't know which one it was, you know, I just was, but I felt, and I realized like they were aware of what was happening when I was sitting with that one tree, and they were aware of me at that point. And that was just, that really touched me, you know. So I just, there was that thing. And then the second thing that I wanted to talk about was when you were talking about remembering. And some friends of mine, you know, that's been a word that's been kind of buzzing. And mem is one of the Hebrew letters. And mem is of water. So remembering is the center of that word. And water, as they've even said it in Frozen 2, that has memory. But it's true. It's not it's actually true. So the water in us, you know, how far does that go back? And the water that has been carried from our wombs from womb to womb to, you know, the water, that's into DNA, that's into structure, so you're going all the way back, I think, with that remembering, you know.
Yeah, that is a powerful one right there with the water, for sure.
I just want to say, I think it's awesome that we can go to a church and talk about all creation and rocks being alive, and not everybody just looks at you as crazy and can hug trees and stuff, and it's normal. That's so amazing. And I really love thinking about, like, what is matter? It's basically energy that's very pressed in to each other, and so everything is made of energy, and it's all moving, it's all alive. If you go to the subatomic level, everything's constantly moving and bumping into things, and it's so much life in everything. So
Yeah, that's really cool. Thank you.
So not to be left out, I do garden, and many of you know that. Hopefully you've enjoyed some of my stuff. Yeah. After I water, many times I actually bless the plants and tell them to have a good evening. So I do talk to them.
And I think it works because you have some of the largest produce I've ever seen. So. Thank you guys. That was a lot of fun. And I'm sorry we did go late, but thank you guys for hanging in through that. And yeah, wonderful feedback. It's fun hearing all your guys' feedback. Bless you and have a wonderful night.